Okay, I'm going to forewarn you. In this video, I might swear. I'll try not to, but I do get angry and passionate when I start thinking about some of the things that are going on in this world. Now, the fraud of Abu Dhabi 2021 was an event that woke me up to some of the dynamics of this world. Now, I'm trying to use that to help other people see it for exactly what it is. Like many, for a long period of my life, I've realised that the system that we live in isn't right. It's geared towards advantaging a certain few. But I think, like also many, we have got our own lives to lead. We feel that we're powerless to affect how the system is working, and therefore you just crack on and do your own thing. Certain people choose to protest, but again, a lot of people get disillusioned by that because ultimately you might go to a rally, you might sign a petition, but very little happens. Now, a lot of the things that we're told, we are skeptical of, we can believe them to be lies, but we don't have the proof that it's a lie. With the difference with Abu Dhabi 2021, I knew that I could prove it. When I was watching it, I knew that it was wrong. I said to the people that I was watching it with, this is wrong. They cannot allow this to stand. I guarantee you they will overturn this result because there is no way that this can stand. They didn't overturn it with the post-race protests, which they should have done. They didn't overturn it by Mercedes continuing through with an appeal. They didn't overturn it by the FIA acknowledging that they'd done something wrong and therefore had to overturn it. The media has presented us with lies to validate it, and they expect us to move on. So it's taken time to try and understand what the dynamics of the situation are. And the dynamics, which is something that has taken more time to actually understand, is that Mercedes were complicit with fixing that event. Okay, so this is something that a lot of us would have seen Mercedes as being the victims of the situation, but the reality is they were complicit with it. Deals were done, and all of the stakeholders in the show of Formula One just kept quiet and allowed it to happen, and they all made money out of it. And that's the situation. I will go into much greater detail in other videos about that, but that is the truth of the matter. Now, how did they get away with it? They got away with it through a multiple of reasons. Now, sadly, one of those reasons is that people are thick, and I'm going to demonstrate that in this video. I'm going to demonstrate that dynamic, and we'll just go through a few of the comments just to show you the kind of things that people have in their heads, and they just do not know how to think. Secondly, is this notion that people feel powerless, and therefore, if the authorities tasked to investigate such a thing aren't doing so, then people think, well, where can we go? If the police aren't investigating it, if the Serious Fraud Office aren't investigating it, what else can be done? You know, people don't know. Well, technically, they're the authorities that should be doing it, so why aren't they doing it? That again should get the alarm bells ringing. Who is in control of tasking those forces to investigate those crimes? Ultimately, where does the responsibility lie to say to the police, to say to the Serious Fraud Office, that needs investigating? Who is making those decisions? Okay, because somebody is making a decision as to what crimes are being investigated and what aren't. Okay, understand that. Don't just go and have this belief, oh, because the police aren't investigating it, it's not a crime. Okay, you might have had your house burgled and the police might not be investigating it. Doesn't mean you haven't had your house burgled. Okay, they just go, oh yeah, there's a crime number, claim off your insurance. The perpetrator who stole from you, well, we're not going to even try and find who they were. Okay, so just because the police aren't going to investigate it doesn't mean that a crime hasn't been committed. So understand that. The media conditions minds. The media presents a version of events that most people will accept as being truth. They accept them as being, oh, they've told us this is how it happened, so that is how it happened. And a lot of people do not seek to look at the underlying agenda through a narrative being presented a certain way. So they know that that works. That's a tried and tested thing, and we're all actually victims of that in this world. So that's another reason they knew they'd get away with it. And one of the other dynamics of the situation as to why they knew they'd get away with it is this notion, and again, you go through Brundle's interviews, they deter you from going down this route. All right. So I'm going to go down this route. It's like, oh, if you're going to make allegations that there was some sort of racing involved, you're going to need some good lawyers behind you. Okay. So if you're going to go down a legal route and challenge this sport of Formula One, you're going to need some good lawyers behind you. And what does that mean, everybody? And everyone's like, oh, that's going to be expensive. Okay, break that down. Why is law expensive? Right? What is law? Law is the difference between right and wrong in the context of a specific situation. So in any situation that any of us encounter in our lives, if something takes place that is unjust, okay, and injustice, then how does that get dealt with? Now, before supposed law existed, something occurs in life which is a situation of conflict. How does it get resolved? Well, often it would have got resolved through brutality. Okay? If there is a conflict, a difference of opinion, and one person wants their way and the other person wants their way, and you cannot form an agreement, well, who gets their way? Well, the one who is most dominant. Okay? The one who is willing to exert force, perhaps. The one who is willing to exert brutality, perhaps. So we can see where that takes us. We descend into crime, chaos, criminality, brutality. Who becomes the ruler is the one who is the tyrant, the one willing to exert the most force. Mafia-run style kind of organisations will rule. Now, we are supposed to want to live in a civilised world. And to live in a civilised world, there needs to be a set of rules. And those rules need to be adhered to by people so that we all have respect for one another, we respect one another's property, and we don't infringe upon that, the notion of human rights. If something takes place where there is an issue, we then have this notion of law there to resolve the issue. So there's a point of conflict. It can't be resolved between the two parties. We don't want to resort to brutality, so we need the law to intervene. So the agency of law to intervene to assess the situation and determine what is the correct outcome in that situation by assessing what is right and what is wrong. Who is in the right, who is in the wrong. Why does that cost money? Why would that cost millions of pounds? Why? Well, the reality is what has happened is that system has become skewed to make the profession a lot of money. It is the emperor's new clothes. They gaslight the world to tell you that law is so complicated, so complex that you can't understand it. And because you can't understand it, because you're so thick, okay, the only way that you'll understand the difference between right and wrong is if you employ a lawyer and what they'll understand the difference between right and wrong, and what they'll do is construct you an argument so that you have a better chance of winning this dispute. And what the other person you're disputing against, they'll be encouraged to employ a lawyer as well, so that that lawyer can construct them an argument to give them the chance of winning the argument. That is how they sell it to both parties. And so they construct arguments, they argue, the lawyers get loads of money, and eventually, after however many years and however much money spent, a judge finally says, okay, I've heard both arguments after all this length of time, and this is the ruling. After he's enabled all these lawyers to go through all this bullshit and make loads of money out of the situation. And all you have to do is, without emotion, okay, without desire, remove what outcome that you want from a situation from it and just assess the situation. Break the situation down to the bare bones of the situation and determine what is right and what is wrong. And if you can do that, that is how you construct your argument. And if you know you're right, you're right. You're on the right side of the law. You won't be beaten. Any corrupt lawyer that seeks to present an argument against you, well, you can easily destroy those arguments. Because if you have truth and fact on your side and you can evidence it, then whatever argument they attempt to construct will be destroyed. But there are always lawyers out there that are willing to take the job of constructing that argument because they get paid. Those people in the legal profession that do that, they're not interested in law. They're not interested in the difference between right and wrong in order to have this civilized society. What they are interested in is money. Let's be clear. They're mercenaries. They are willing to take money to construct an argument for somebody who has done things that are wrong, and yet they're being paid to fight for that person to win a situation. That is how messed up this is. So if you break it down like that, you can understand the true reality of this notion of law. And I'll just give a quick example before I get into the Formula One thing. So this is something that really annoys me, and this is the kind of thing that does make me swear. So some of you in the UK will be aware of the post office scandal, where the post office employed, they put new computer system into the post offices, and it was basically, it was malfunctioning. Things were happening with it whereby it was making out that the postmasters, the people in the post offices, were misreporting the money that they'd taken and making out that these people were stealing money from the post office. Some of these people went to prison. Some of these people committed suicide. Some of these people received criminal convictions for theft, effectively stealing from the post office. And it was the fault of both the post office. They knew this was a faulty system, and it was a fault of Fujitsu, I believe it was, who provided the faulty system that ruined the lives of the people that were affected by it. The people that were affected, that had their lives destroyed, had their livelihoods destroyed, formed a group and took the post office to court for what had happened, the post office had done to them, and what Fujitsu had been party to doing to them. Eventually, they won, and in the court, the judge awarded a settlement figure of £58 million, leaving the claimants with £12 million after legal costs. So out of a £58 million settlement, the lawyers took £46 million. £46 million. Bastards. Justify that. Justify that. Quite simply, if you can find the evidence of the wrongdoing, which they got evidence, they found the people that had visited Fujitsu and confirmed that they'd been there. They found the evidence that Fujitsu had destroyed the evidence of that person even going there that day. So they got witnesses. The post office were lying, okay? But eventually they got them to concede the truth. They won. But how can you justify a £46 million bill for being the person that made the argument? You might have spent a year or two doing some research, putting in 40 hours a week for a year or two. So if you work 40 hours a week for a year or two, how much money are you going to earn? What's your salary going to be? Let's say you're in a really high paid job and you're on £100,000 a year and you work for 2 years. You might get £200,000. See, I'm good at maths, right? Where does your £46 million come from? Oh, that's the legal fees. It's really expensive, the legal fees. Why? What's that all about? Who has taken £46 million, leaving the 555 people that collected together with a share of 12 million? So what does that leave them? 20 grand each? 20 grand each. While the lawyers, wow, they get 46 million. The people who had their lives destroyed, 20 grand. The lawyers, 46 million. And a judge thinks that's okay. Yeah? A judge thinks that's okay. So what's the judge doing? Well, what he's doing, he's facilitating lawyers, isn't he? They're all part of the same club, aren't they, Jerry? They're all part of the same club. And, you know, what they do... Let's have a look down here. Here's one of them. They wear a costume, okay? They put on a wig, put on a little robe like that, put on their cape and their wig, and they think they've got more integrity than you and me. Okay, they think they're more knowledgeable than you and me, or they'll project that. They'll tell you that you don't understand the law. No, your job is to determine the difference between right and wrong in the context of this situation that I am giving you the evidence of. Don't tell me that legally I wouldn't understand the implications of this, because I do. I understand what constitutes a fraud. I will go through and explain all the consequences of that fraud at a later date. Anybody that tries to seek to argue against me would be projecting a corrupt argument, a corrupt defence, trying to circumvent consequence for the wrongdoing of the perpetrators. But they will award the fees, they will award the money to the lawyers first. Oh, we'll pay the lawyers, and then what's left over, the people that have been affected, oh, you can have what's left over after we've had our argument over this situation. All of us in the legal club, all of us wearing our costumes. But the rest of you, don't you worry your little heads, you won't understand. Okay? Once you understand law, okay, and when you understand it as being like that, then you'll realise it's not difficult. They won't like me. They really won't like me. But I don't care. This isn't Instagram. Law isn't about how many likes you get. It's simply the difference between right and wrong in the context of a given situation. And you always hold them to that. So if I just go back here and again look at the filthy nature of that scandal. I mean, this bit here, again, I'm looking on the internet. I'm reliant upon the information that's given to us on the internet because ultimately I was not involved. I don't have the hard facts and I'm only willing to do so much research. So I'm just looking at what comes up presented on the internet, and what will come up presented on the internet about Abu Dhabi at the moment, that's all fraudulent because none of it is telling the truth that I'm telling on this channel. But this bit here, it says the post office has spent more than 250 million on legal fees linked to the Horizon IT scandal. So the Horizon bit was the name of the computing system, wasn't it? Provided by Fujitsu, I believe. So the post office was willing to spend 250 million to lawyers to try to get out, to evade consequence of its guilt, whilst leaving the actual victims penniless. They'd rather give £250 million to mercenaries to create them an argument to try and absolve them of consequence for their wrongdoing. They'd rather do that than pay the people that they've ruined their lives of. And the lawyers that have taken that job will take the money knowing that the lives of people are being destroyed, and they will not give a fuck about it because they're getting £250 million out of it. Let that sink in. Corrupt bastard lawyers. Filthy mercenary motherfuckers. Okay? Understand what the legal system is. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So do not let anybody gaslight you over that, because judges and lawyers will gaslight you. That's a fact. That is a fact. Trust me on this. Do not allow it to happen. There might be more on that at some point in time. But anyway, getting back to Abu Dhabi 2021, and one of the reasons why they were able to get away with the bullshit is people being thick as fuck. Right now, this is a comment that I've this is not the only person that has made a similar comment to this. We've probably seen comments like this all over social media, and it's this. It says, would you have made all these videos if the situation in Abu Dhabi 2021 had been the other way round? All right, so Max in front during the safety car and Lewis pitting for new softs and winning. I can answer this for you. Nope. Okay, so somebody thinks that they can answer their own question for me. And the retarded pricks do not even know what they're even asking, do they? Because you don't know how to think, because you're a thick motherfucker. Okay, a thick child that doesn't even fucking know what you're asking there, do you? You mind-conditioned fuck. Okay? So, would you have made all these videos if the situation had been the other way around? What a twat. Okay, let me ask it to you this way. All right? This is to the person that's just asked this question. Your brother has just been murdered. The police aren't investigating it. So you decide you're going to seek justice. You decide you are going to do the investigation. You're going to find out who murdered your brother, and you're going to ensure that they are brought to justice. Okay? You'd do that, would you? You'd be inclined to do that? Would you do that if it was your brother who had killed the person, had murdered somebody? Would you go and do all the investigation if it was your brother that had done the killing and murdered somebody else? Let me answer that for you. No. See? What a bullshit argument. There's been a crime. There's been a heinous crime, and it needs to be investigated, and the perpetrator needs bringing to justice. That's all that it is. Remove your desires, remove whether you like Lewis Hamilton or whether you like Max Verstappen. Look at what has happened. What has happened is this show has sold to the world a sport. It is broadcast on Sky Sports. It is reported in the sports sections of publications. It's a sport. So, sports are conducted in accordance with rules. The sport itself broke the rules to change the outcome of that. The media lied about that. All of the teams involved kept quiet about that. The media has served to validate that, to condition minds to believe that it was just a mistake. Everybody was a bit confused at the time, and nobody really knew what was going on. But the sport's done all right out of it. Oh, Liberty Media's made 4.8 billion out of that. That's all good, isn't it? And everybody involved's got a bit of a share out of that. That's all fine, isn't it? Don't you worry your little heads. Move on. And your question is, would I have made these videos if it had been the other way round and Max was in front and Lewis had pitted and winning? And you think you can answer that question, do you? Yeah. And pricks like you are allowed to vote because you've got your valuable insight. And pricks like you will be selected for things like jury service, when we've got really intelligent people allowed to determine whether or not somebody is guilty of perpetrating a crime, or whether or not you'll believe the argument of a corrupt bastard lawyer who is seeking to absolve somebody of consequence for their crime. But depending on whether or not you like that person will depend on whether or not you're going to think that they're guilty or not. Because you don't understand what constitutes facts, what constitutes the damage done by a crime, do you? It's all about emotion for you. It's all about who you like and who you don't like. And this is part of the problem. And this is what they play on. And this is how they encourage you to believe things. When they can encourage the human mind to actually behave that way, when they can appeal to your desires and not teach you how to think critically about a situation, you become easy to manipulate. And you are. Well, you are to them. I can't manipulate you because you will not be able to absorb my words. To you, who am I? To you, well, I'm not an authentic source. I'm not Sky Sports, who you believe are an authentic source. I'm not the BBC, who you believe to be an authentic source. I'm not on the television, which you believe to be an authentic source. Who am I? Oh, this is just some voice on the internet that thinks everything's all controlled in this world. He's just a conspiracy theorist. What is he going on about? We can't believe him. He's crazy. That's what your mind will think, isn't it? That's what your mind thinks, because you can't actually break down situations and analyse, well, what is being said here? Is what is being said correct? Let's analyse what is being said, and let's look at what is being described. Let's look at what is being presented. And is it the way that it's being described? Is that accurate? Now let's look at what he is saying about the situation. Is that accurate? Now let's look what Martin Brundle and David Croft are saying about the situation. Is that accurate? You don't know, do you? You don't care. You like what you got. You liked that Max Verstappen got the outcome that you wanted him to get, and therefore anybody that says anything else, you don't like them. What they're saying can't be true. It doesn't correspond with what you want to happen, and therefore you'll fight for the outcome that you want. That's a huge dynamic. A known dynamic, known by the owners of the show. Known by the owners of the show. They study human behaviour. That's how they sell things to you. They're marketing experts. They know the strategies that are going to appeal to you to get you to believe something, to get you to buy into something. They are the experts of it. They're the experts of manipulation. They're the experts of getting into your thought process to get you to believe things to be a certain way, to get you to desire things to be a certain way, because that's how they sell things to you. But you don't get that, do you? You don't get that. I'm going to pause this and try and find the next retarded comment to then just pick my way through. Here we go. Okay, here's another retarded comment. So this one here that says, the rules were amended after 2021, so it wouldn't happen again. I'm sure you're aware of this. So again, this is mind-conditioned, brain-dead people falling for the narrative. But they fall for the narrative because they're happy with that. You know, they wanted the outcome, so to be then told, oh, well, yeah, we've changed the rules now to make them clearer because before this, yeah, you could have interpreted them like that. No, you couldn't. What you've got to understand is them rules and regulations, they don't exist in a vacuum. They're grounded in context of motorsport, context of sporting fairness to all competitors, because that sport is underpinned by the FIA International Sporting Code. And then regulations are applied in accordance and in conjunction with that international sporting code. And therefore, those safety car regulations, which you now believe because you've been brainwashed into believing it and your desire-driven motivation wants you to believe it that way. You've been brainwashed into believing that, oh, that's the rules in the first place. Yeah, you could have interpreted them that way, and now they've done something about that to make sure it doesn't happen again. Well, give me an example before Abu Dhabi 2021 of those rules being interpreted the way that they were interpreted at Abu Dhabi 2021. Well, there wasn't one. Okay, so I'll save you a bit of research there. There wasn't. That's the first time it's ever happened like that. That's strange. That's the first time that they've ever been interpreted like that. Okay? But to you, that's okay. That's okay. That can just happen, can't it? That can just happen. That's another thing of the 40 that you have to believe. Okay? 40 things that are wrong, and you have to believe, oh, but it can be that way on each of this. Oh, yeah, but it could be that way. Oh, yeah, but it could be that way, right? And you'll believe every single one of them because you want to believe every single one of them, even though every single one of them can be categorically disproved. But rules being grounded in context. Safety car rules are grounded in context. When you deploy a safety car in a race, racing becomes neutralized. It becomes neutralized for every single competitor. They're all under yellow flag conditions. Okay? And we know a safety car goes on track. The cars have to slow to a delta. That delta is actually faster than safety car speed. And hence they'll end up catching the safety car. Well, it is for the first lap and a bit, I think, is under a delta. But then after that, after they kind of realise where the location on the track of where the incident is and everything like that, they all end up actually travelling faster than the safety car is going and end up catching the safety car. You know that to be true. You can argue with my wording because I didn't explain that in the most coherent of manners, but we know that to be true. The cars bunch up behind that safety car. And the implications of that are if there are no lapped cars, if the leader hasn't gone so far ahead that they have started passing the cars at the back of the field, right? So if there's no lapping taking place, what will happen is the leader will catch that safety car and every other car will form this snake behind that leader. And that will be the correct race order, first down to the last remaining competitor. When they've achieved that condition, and when they've dealt with the incident, the safety car will be withdrawn. It will go into the pits, and then they'll be allowed to go racing again. If the leader has made it round and started lapping the cars towards the back end of the field, well, those cars towards the back end of the field, they're still in that same race as everybody else. Right? They're still in that race. They're still fighting for position with those cars around them. And so you could be fighting for position with the car around you, but the leader has come and passed you, right? And is in between you and the car that's just ahead of you that you're fighting for position. And now, oh, somebody else has crashed somewhere else. Safety car. What now? Well, it's yellow flags. You can't overtake, right? You've got to stay behind the leader. The car in front of that leader, okay, who the leader hasn't yet lapped, he just disappears off around the track and the leader gets held back behind the safety car. You are now left a lap behind that car that you were previously in a fight with. You're not, that's not allowed to happen. Hence the regulations. Hence regulations do not exist in a vacuum. It's grounded in context. Anybody that suggests an argument is being like a corrupt bastard lawyer. Oh, legally, any doesn't mean all. Right, fuck off, you corrupt bastard lawyer. And that's what you would say in a court of law. Judge, this is a corrupt bastard lawyer trying to ignore context, trying to pervert the course of justice by presenting a corrupt bastard argument. And I will hold you to account for this. And if you dare to fucking side with him, I will expose you to the world for being corrupt. That is the situation. Quite simple. Quite simple. And those of you in law, I hope you're fucking watching this. I hope you are fucking watching this. Having a nice listen. Quite simple. Your second point, anyway. I told you I get a bit frustrated with these things now and again, but this is what it's about. Second part, and other teams' regulations which do not prohibit a single entity from owning multiple teams. No, the rules of Formula One do not prohibit Red Bull from owning two of the teams. Okay, so you put that into football, for example. All right, the rules in their present form don't prohibit it. But would that be just because they don't prohibit it doesn't mean that there's something not wrong there. Okay, there's something wrong, and it gives scope for manipulation. And corrupt people will manipulate. That's the truth of the situation. Corrupt people will manipulate. So don't, just because you like, oh, well, the rules allow it. No. Let's have some ethics and let's do the right thing. Just because, oh, well, the rules are that and there's no consequence if you do that, doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Think of football. Think of the Premier League. In the Premier League, Manchester City, right, they're allowed to play in the Premier League and have their B team in the Premier League as well. So the Premier League consists of 20 teams, okay, Manchester City team and the Manchester B team and 18 other teams, right? So the Manchester B team, well, when they play the other title rivals, they field all of Manchester City's first team, because Manchester City's first team, they're playing the team that's bottom of the table. They're going to win that game anyway. That's going to be a walkover. So when Manchester City B team play their title rivals, which might be Liverpool, might be Arsenal, might be whoever else is up there. Can't see that many of the teams doing that particularly well at the moment. But yeah, Manchester City put their best players in their B team for those games to make sure they take as many points as possible out of the other teams, using their B team on them games to give the A team a much better chance of winning the title. Is that allowed? No, it's not. No, it's not. And it's not allowed for that reason. Those that have the most amount of money and power will then dominate through manipulation. And that's why we have rules. And that's why the rules need to be applied. Oh, but you don't have those rules in Formula One. Okay, so you want to just say everything's fine then. Okay? You have the opinion that everything is fine. Well, clearly, by making that comment, you think you're making a point, don't you? You'll go, oh, well, I didn't say that, did I? I didn't say that. Well, because that's the kind of wanker that you are, all right? But these are kind of wank boys that come up into the comment section that will just put that in there, and then when you challenge them, they go, oh, wow, you're trying to say I said this, and I didn't say that. So and just try and make an argument over it. Simply, don't be a wanker. This one's another one. This is another wanker, right? Jack and Dylan, right? Jack and Dylan, whatever. Since I've last seen your uploads, I got a new job, moved out, moved back, been through a relationship, experienced family medical emergencies, watched the family members make a full recovery. Ukraine has entered Russia. Israel has committed a genocide on Palestinians. A submarine went missing. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was found, and you're still making content based upon a rather severe bout of paranoid schizophrenia. And 7 wankers like that. This is a global injustice. This is an example which can demonstrate to people that you've all been lied to. You've been lied to by media. What else in this world are you being lied to by media about? How does that actually impact your life? So these struggles that you may or may not have experienced, because the truth of the turmoil that you've presented there in your life, okay, how much of that turmoil didn't need to be the struggle that it was? Could things be different? Could things be better? Could the way that the system works be better? Could the cost of living be easier on us all? Could the amount of time that we have, because we're not a slave to money, be different? Would that make a difference to our lives, our stress levels, who we are, our relationships, all of these things? Who is ultimately setting the template for our lives? You don't know, do you? And the reason you don't know is because you're a brain dead motherfucker. You're a brain dead, conditioned prick. Okay? But you've got a keyboard and you've got an opinion, and you like to come to the comments section of a channel that's trying to expose global corruption, and because you like Max Verstappen, and because you want Max Verstappen to be a world champion, okay, you liked the contrivance that you were given, you're going to try and discredit and undermine something that's exposing the truth about it. Either that, or you're being paid to do so. Or either that, you just spend your life getting off on going into the comment sections on social media to incite argument. Okay, could well be that. I mean, that's got 17 replies, so perhaps you just like arguing with people and that arouses you. You know, that floats your boat. You sitting there at your computer typing away, really enjoying that. You know, but you project that I'm the one with paranoid schizophrenia. There's lots of these mental health experts, isn't there, in the comments section of social media. You're all fucking brilliant, aren't you? All highly qualified individuals with the ability to think for yourself, aren't you? Yeah, yeah, really, really clever. You guys are really, really clever. You know, and you obviously you come up with the terms that you may have you've heard it in one of your lessons. For those of you that may have gone to university, I doubt many of them have. What's the one? Dunning-Kruger. Okay, I'd never heard of that one, so I thought I'll have a look what that is, and it's something along the lines of these two people have done this bit of research, and they've found that there are people that project that they know more about something than they actually know, and therefore, they're more confident about their abilities than their abilities truly are, and that is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Somebody has done some research, and that is their findings, and then they project that at me to say, "Oh, you're suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect." Look, what you don't know is that although on this channel, I've said my name is James Atkins, right? The reality is that's not my real name. My real name's Freddie, right? I fucking wrote that report. Okay, you don't understand it, do you? You just don't understand. Just because somebody's done a bit of research and written a report, so you believe that, and you don't believe that somebody else actually might know what they're talking about, but you'd rather project that, oh, they think they know what they're talking about, but they actually have got more confidence than their abilities actually truly are. So you want to try and undermine them by presenting that. But you don't really understand the notion of Dunning-Kruger because you don't actually know my competence level, do you? You just don't like what I'm presenting, so want to project that I don't have competence. Thanks for your valuable insight, dickhead. Anyway, I'm going to bring this one to an end. There are a lot of positive comments down here, and there's actually a lot of insightful comments. Thankfully, the number of decent people that have subscribed to this channel outnumber the wankers by about kind of 18, 19 to 1. It's only around about 5 to 7% of people that come to this channel are trolls and are twats. But that's reflective of society, isn't it? You know, if you think about society, every facet of society you've ever been, think back to school. You know, in school there was always twats, and there were always people that were never going to get it. And for those of you who, when you think back to your experiences of school, if you don't remember it being like that, you were the twat. You were the thick fucker that was never going to get it. So don't you worry your little heads. Okay. So we know that this is what we have to deal with in life. Formula One knows that this is what we have to deal with in life. They know that these dynamics exists, and what they've done, they've incited it. They've put the fuel on the fire. They watch it burn. They've done it on purpose. They make money out of it. They've increased engagement as a result of playing to that dynamic. That's how filthy they are. Understand that. That's the truth of the situation. But like I say, I am extremely grateful of the 95% of people that come here, that support what it is I'm trying to put into video format to enable more and more people to understand the true reality of what was taking place. All right. Many of you know that it was wrong. Many of you will have seen it on the day and said, that is wrong. That's a cheat. Okay. As we all did on the day. But I've taken the time to break down as much of this as possible to get to the bottom of exactly the dynamics that were in play. And it reveals it. And obviously these twats will come and say, oh, well, that's not evidence. That's not They don't understand what constitutes evidence. You know, they've got no idea what constitutes evidence. I've got a comment the other day. Some prick tried to come at me with some Latin that he clearly Googled, didn't have a clue what it meant. But when you break it down, you're just like, you haven't got a fucking clue, mate. Trying to some old lawyer speak, where it's this notion of just because there's a load of events that take place, you then draw your conclusions as if to say that those are causes and effects, but they might not be causes and effects. So therefore, you jump into the conclusion from that might be you jumping to the wrong conclusion. That's it in English rather than Latin, or words to that effect. But no doubt a lawyer will tell, oh, no, 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 that's not what it means. Only a lawyer will know what that means, right? But essentially they're saying that, okay, what a load of twats. Well, it's because they want to try to present something to cast doubt on the situation. They want to get a jury to believe that everything that's being presented, oh, well, they're not linked. And don't go assuming just because that happened and that happened and that happened, that was them people contriving it to be that way. That was just random. That could have been entirely random. Oh, and this person's just trying to say all these things happened to, oh, yeah, all 40 of them all happened by chance and contrived that just, well, it didn't contrive it would just happen by chance, didn't it? Oh, and the sport made 4.8 billion out of that. Oh, that was a lucky thing to come out of that as well, wasn't it? That just happened by chance as well. Oh, that's what, oh, the lawyer, oh, well, he'll take 46 million out of that for saying that. The lawyer will do all right out of making that argument. Yeah, come at me. Come at me. Anyway, that'll do on this video. Thank you for your support. And I'm going to break down in one of the next couple of videos the narratives. There's 3 major narratives going on in those last 5 laps of Abu Dhabi. One is a tyre narrative, one is the rules narrative, and one is the confusion narrative. Okay? You can break the 3 elements down and separate them out. And then when you watch it back, you'll all be able to pick out those 3 elements that are just rotating round. Tyres, rules, which they're lying about, and confusion. Tyres, rules, confusion. And that's how they're just gaslighting you and disorientating you all the way through. They are filthy. And hopefully it's going to be something that's going to just wake people up. As soon as you can see how they're doing it and what they're doing to us, then you'll see it in other facets of life and how this construct that we're living under, who it's benefiting and how they're managing to get away with it and have done for centuries. But anyway, that's for future videos. Thank you once again for your time. I do appreciate those of you that are good people out there, and I can see from the input that you have on the channel who the decent people are. Thank you. Take care.